Welcome to the Science Spectrum. My name is Alana. I'm the education coordinator here at the museum. And we're still wanting to bring you content during this time where we're not closed. Again, we're very, very sad that the Science Spectrum's closed and we're not able to see you face to face. But we hope this helps, giving you some things to see and learn and do while you're at home, but then also letting us still be able to share with you. So I'm joined by Doug. He's our
Director of Life Sciences.
There we go. Director of Life Sciences. He goes by many names of just animal guy or life science guy or whatever. So since the museum is closed, but we still have quite a few animals in the building, so it is essential that our staff come in and take care of those. So Doug, what does a typical day look like for you caring for all of these critters we have at the Science Spectrum?
Well, it doesn't change a whole lot. Outside of not having the visitors here, which we love our visitors, I know we go to the back of the room and lay our knowledge on the visitors. But we still need to show up. These animals still need to be fed.
Yeah.
We've got life support equipment for our big fish tanks and such, and a lot of the animals in the back that require feeding. We've got some seahorses that need to be fed 3 times a day minimum. So we do have to be here every day.
Yeah.
That's something we do regardless. We're on weekends, we're on Sundays, and all of that. But even if the museum's closed, we still need to take care of these animals.
Yeah, about how many mouths do you have to feed?
A little over 500 mouths here, and that's if you take into account all the fish, the amphibians, and the snacks and all that we have here. A little over 500 every day that use something.
Wow. So, and what are different food sources that you're using?
Everything from plain meat for the fish, to crickets, to mice and rats for the snakes, and seafood for some of the bigger sharks and stuff. So it goes a whole gauntlet of what we're feeding out, and a lot of that is frozen foods, green, fall out every day and stuff.
Yeah, not to mention still cleaning out tanks and watering everything that needs water.
Exactly. In our business, we have a motto of every animal every day.
Yeah.
Not that every animal needs attention every day, but you do need to look at that animal every day and make sure that everything is provided for them.
That's perfect. And one thing that at least the education staff, myself, and some of our others are missing is we're not getting to handle the animals on a daily basis anymore. So is that something y'all are trying to do, is keep handling some of those?
We are, as time allows, we need the animals to remain trackable, to
Yeah.
be used to be in color. So we try to get that time in, liable and do different things so we can continue our education. And that's why these types of things are absolutely perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you have a couple critters you want to share with us today.
We do. We're going to talk about reptiles in general, but we're going to define that a little bit down in the order of snakes and lizards.
Very cool.
So we're going to talk about a couple of those, and you're going to be surprised by our last one.
Okay. All right. So while you get the first critter out, I'll grab the camera so we can get some close-up shots. There we go. All of a sudden, I forgot how to flip a camera around. All right. So who do we have here?
This is a Trans-Pecos rat snake, and he comes from right here in Texas. These are mainly found down through Mexico, northern part of Mexico, but they do come into the United States through West Texas and a little bit into southern New Mexico as well. So Trans-Pecos rat snake, really, really cool. They're not seen a lot in the wild. They hide quite a bit in the rock fissures and down in the cracks and crevices. And only come out at night. Usually after a good rain, they'll come out the next night or something like that out. So you don't see them a whole lot, so it's a really neat opportunity for people to see this specific type of snake.
What are some of his cool features?
Some of the cool features, well, he's a snake, for one,
Yeah.
and that's cool in and of itself. Something cool about these guys, they are sexually dimorphic, which means that you can tell the male from the female. The females grow about a foot larger than the males do. So this is a male, so our female would be about a foot larger than this quite long snake as it is. The other cool thing about this is they're a constricting snake. Now, snakes can take their prey and find their prey and subdue their prey in different ways. Naturally, venomous snakes use venom to do this. Other snakes, like your indigo snake, your racers, coach whips, they'll overpower their prey and use their blunt force. These are what they call a constricting snake. And what he'll do is he'll find a prey, usually a rat, something like that, and he'll reach out and grab this thing, and he'll hold on tight. He's got little hook teeth like fish hooks that help him hold on to the prey. The more the prey tries to pull away, the deeper those teeth go in to hold on, and then he'll wrap around that prey item just as quickly as he can, and he'll start to squeeze. And every time that rat tries to take another breath, he squeezes a little more. The rat tries to take another breath, a little bit more, until pretty soon it's over for the rat. And then he'll use these jaws, which is really cool with snakes, is they've got these really elastic jaws. They don't actually unhinge like we've been led to believe, but they do have a little elastic band right here on the bottom jaw that allows that head to expand pretty wide, and they can eat something 3 to 5 times the size of their head.
Wow.
That'd be like me taking a whole watermelon and swallowing it at once.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is really cool. These are just, snakes are wonderfully adapted to their environment. They have no legs, so they can go down into these little rock fissures. They can go down into a mammal burrow without their shoulders getting in the way, and it makes them really nature's perfect predator. So these guys are amazing for what they do and their ecological niche that they fill here on the planet.
That is awesome. So I love it when people are passionate about what they are passionate about. So I see you're very animated as you're holding the snake and moving your hand and talking with your hands a little bit. Any concerns with that as you're handling the snake?
Not with this particular snake. He's used to being handled. Now, if I were to grab a snake up out of the wild like this, not a venomous snake,
yes,
of course, but a snake like this, yeah, you would want to keep your hand gestures down. You would want to move just as slowly and as deliberately as possible. But this guy is used to being handled, so he's used to the kind of the sudden movements. He's kind of desensitized to that, if you will.
That's perfect. So then let's get some advice for if you happen to see a snake outside, out in the wild, what should you do?
If you happen to see a snake out in the wild, well, number one, it's really cool to see a snake out in the wild. You know, Texas has over 100 different types of snakes here in the state, so we've got a nice variety. Now, if you don't know your snakes, if you don't know a venomous snake from a non-venomous snake, leave it alone. Even if it's a non-venomous snake, just leave it alone. Let him go about what he's doing. I always say with the venomous snakes, like a rattlesnake, once you see that rattlesnake, he is no longer a danger. You have to make a conscious decision then to engage that animal and put yourself in danger. But if you can see it, you can certainly walk around that animal and leave it alone. A snake like this, leave them alone. Just leave them be. They have a really strong ecological niche. They really belong out there in nature. They take care of rodents and things like that. Rodents can do a lot of damage and spread a lot of disease. These are one of nature's best answers to the rodent problem. So leave them alone, let them go out about their business, and they'll protect us just as much as we're protecting them.
That's a good point. So you kind of started to hint on kind of my next question as to snakes in general have a pretty bad rap.
They do.
And they have this persona that all snakes are bad. So
Right.
you already kind of mentioned that they eat a ton of mice and rats, helping with disease control and stuff like that. So what are some other just reasons why snakes shouldn't be feared but respected?
Well, it's like any animal. We fear things that we don't understand. So if you do fear snakes, I would encourage you to get a little bit of knowledge and start to understand how these animals interact with the world around them. Again, they are very, very important for rodent control and things like that. Even venomous snakes have an important role to play here on the planet. Not just rodent control, but we're finding the venoms of some snakes using them for medicinal purposes to control things like heart attacks, stroke, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and all of these things. So every animal here on the planet has a really vital role to play. Mother Nature is probably your toughest CEO, your toughest boss out there. If you're not doing your job and your job is not needed out there, you're out of here. So everything on the planet out there has a role to play and to play well. Snakes are just part of that. So if you are feared of snakes, I would say get a little bit of education about them. If you don't want to go that route, I'm not saying you have to love snakes, you have to have one over for dinner.
Right.
But just leave them alone, let them go about their business.
Right, absolutely. One question that I get pretty often with snakes is, where is the tail?
Where is the tail? Well, naturally on the other end of the snake. And this snake's tail is going to be right here, and we can flip him around. Every animal has an exit, if you will. Here on the snake, you can see this in large scale here. We call this the vent scale. It opens up into what we call a cloaca. And the tail starts right after that vent scale. Now the males will have a broader, longer tail, and that's because we're going to get a little technical here. Snakes have 2
Great.
units. Yes, exactly.
Parents
and
understand.
Those will invert down along the tail. So the males are going to have a little wider, longer tail, whereas the females, it's going to be a little shorter, a little bit thinner on these guys. So that's how we can tell males from a female as well. But the tail does start right here at the vent, all the way down, and that's the tail of the snake.
Okay, so then another popular question I get, so snakes poop then, right?
They do. They do. They're like any other vertebrate here on the planet, you know, and most animals here, not all, but most animals here do. Yeah, they defecate as well. Snakes are invertebrate. They do have a backbone, contrary to popular belief. These guys have a full skeleton. They have a nice vertebrae going down. They are able to maneuver around, but we see that in mammals too. If you look at a ferret can actually do some pretty amazing things when it moves around as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do snakes have forked tongues?
Why do snakes have forked tongues? Well, that's a good answer, or a good question. Snakes have forked tongues because they use their tongue to smell. Now, snakes have the other senses too. They can feel things, they can see things. A lot of snakes have great eyesight, but they use that tongue to smell with. And what they do is they flip out their tongue and they wave it around in the air, and it collects little molecules in the air. They pull it back and touch it to an organ on top of the roof of their mouth called a Jacobson organ. And that tells them that it sends a chemical cue up to the brain to let them know what things are going on around them. Sense of smell, in other words. Now, the forked tongue allows them to smell in stereo. Now, when they pull that tongue back in, the left side's going to go into this part, the right side's going to go into this part of the Jacobson organ, and they can actually tell which direction that prey is. So the forked tongue is actually, if you're going to smell with your tongue, it's a pretty good system to have.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I mean, I could talk snakes all day because snakes are one of my absolute favorite animals. Anything else you want to highlight or feature about again, this is a Trans-Pecos rat snake.
Trans-Pecos rat snake. And they're one of, many types of snakes that we have in here. And again, I mean, snakes are very popular. And again, they're also one of the most maligned, most misunderstood animals out there. We hear, I'm sure you in education hear as many as I do, some of the myths and misconceptions that we hear about snakes that are just totally untrue. And it's just because people don't quite understand these animals. So I would take time, especially if you're home right now, take some time to jump on the internet and learn a little bit more about these animals. Learn about all of the animals. Learn about everything going on in this planet, because it's amazing how everything fits and kind of works together to make up the planet that we live on.
Right.
Snakes are just a part of that.
Just to probably put you on the spot, but do you happen to know of any good online resources that families could go to?
There are a few. National Geographic is a great one, but really you just pick a snake and type it in. There's good information. It's the internet. There's good information and bad information. But usually if you can get on the spot, like in National Geographic, Audubon, things like this, your local Game and Fish, Texas Parks and Wildlife has a lot of good information about the snakes that we have around us. And those are all these good sources.
Perfect. We do have a viewer question from Jessica. How long will it live?
How long will it? That's a good question, Jessica. A snake like this will live about 15 to 20 years. Sometimes they can live a little bit longer. We've known some of these species to live upwards of almost 30 years.
Wow.
So it's a pretty good lifespan for an animal of this size.
Very cool. All right. Are you ready to get out our next friend?
We are. You're going to like this next little guy.
I'm really excited. So viewers, as you are watching, if you do have any questions, please feel free to comment below, and we can have Doug try and answer those questions for you. All right. Oh, okay. Is this another snake?
Well, actually, one would think he has no legs. One would think, all right, here's another type of snake. This is actually a lizard. This is an animal we call a glass lizard or a legless lizard, but it's actually a lizard. And what makes him a lizard is he actually has eyelids. Snakes don't have eyelids.
See if we can get in real close on this. He's gonna wiggle. He's gonna wiggle around a little bit. Oh,
he has eyelids.
Cool.
He doesn't have the forked tongue.
Yeah. Very cool. And also he has ears too,
he does
right?
have ears. These ear holes that you can see.
He's like,
are
no.
Actually external ears that these guys can hear with. So that makes him a lizard. Just the fact that he doesn't have legs doesn't quite make him a snake.
Yeah, so snakes don't have ears, they don't have legs, and they don't have eyelids.
Correct. Snakes do have an inner ear. They do
Right.
have the bones of the ear, but nothing external that we can see. They pick up more vibrations through the air and on the ground, whereas lizards can hear kind of the ambient noise going on around them.
Very cool. Real quick, I think Erica asked a question, I think about the snake, but we can answer it for both.
Sure.
Can it mate?
Can it mate? Well, naturally, animals need to reproduce. An animal like our Transpecos rat snake, those guys usually breed kind of in the spring and such, and they're an egg-laying snake. Not all snakes are egg layers, but these guys will lay about a dozen up to 2 dozen eggs at a time, which hatch at about 90 days later. The snakes are totally on their own. Mom doesn't provide them any parental care. They go out on their own, and not all of them will survive. Probably 3 or 4 out of 20
Wow.
will actually survive. That's why they have so many at a time, because only a few of those are going to survive to adulthood.
Okay. And these guys, do the legless lizards, would they lay eggs or do they?
Legless lizards are an egg layer as
Okay.
well. And this guy is actually pretty cool. Now, you asked about a tail before.
Yes.
This is what's really cool. We can
Oh,
see the vent here on
wow.
this guy, so over half of his body is actually tail.
Oh, that is so cool.
Now, one of the reasons they call these guys glass lizards is we know that, I don't know if we all know, but it's quite well known that many lizards can drop their tail.
Right.
And if a predator comes along and tries to grab them, the tail will break off and wiggle and such, and keep the predator interested in that while the rest of the animal escapes. Same thing with this guy. And naturally, his tail is quite large, so he could break that off and it will regrow, but that led people to believe 2 things. Number one, that you could cut a snake in half and then it'll grow into
Got
2
it.
snakes. But also, they're very fragile, so the glass lizard is a perfect analogy for something like this. So we handle them very, very delicately nice here.
Yeah, very cool. We do have a couple questions. One is, why does it not have legs?
Why does it not have legs? Well, we think that many years ago, a lot of these animals adapted to not having legs to live more of a fossorial life, meaning they live underground, they live under rocks, live under logs, where things like legs are not necessarily needed, and it almost can become...
Can get in the way, yeah.
Yeah, they get in the way of that animal. So this guy has lost his legs over the years, and he does quite well for his type of lifestyle of burrowing down into loose sand and loose soil, and looking for different invertebrates to eat and things like that.
Very cool. And also, Adam wants to know, how long will the lizard get?
This is a full grown. Now this one is out of Europe. This is not one that you would find here in Texas, although we do have legless lizards here in Texas. Now the ones in Texas don't get very long at all, but you can find those guys right here. So the ones in Texas, you're going to see it about 1.5 feet, 2 feet long. This guy is the largest of the glass lizards, and he is going to grow up upwards of about 3 feet long.
Very cool. All right, so I kind of see this line on the side of his body.
Right. And it's kind of a dorsolateral fold, and what that does is these guys have belly scales as well. Now they don't have quite the scoots that you would see on a snake, the big and large scales that go across like this. They have kind of intricate scales on the side. But those are the belly scales. These are going to be the top scales. So they have this dorsolateral fold that kind of separates the two, if you will, for this animal. And we don't see that in snakes, but we definitely see that in lizards and salamanders and things like that.
Very cool. What does this guy eat?
What does this guy eat? He'll eat just about anything he can overpower.
Oh, fantastic.
We talked about the other animal, the other snake that is a constricting animal. These animals actually just overpower their prey, so it's going to be small prey. They're going to be crickets, worms, things like that. Here at the museum, this guy will actually eat mice. They're frozen mice. We thaw them out from him, but he actually likes his mice. So in the wild, just about anything they can get in their mouth, they're going to eat it. They're opportunistic.
So are they carnivorous, or do they eat?
They are carnivorous.
Okay.
They're strictly
So
carnivores,
just meat.
and you're going to see that in the reptiles. They're all carnivorous. Now, some animals like your amphibians, they go through a stage where they are actually vegetarian, or at least omnivorous, where they'll eat algae and plant matter, and then some animal matter, until they grow into a big frog, and then they're strictly carnivorous. And that's what we can see with this guy as well. Now, not all lizards are carnivorous. Of course, we know that iguanas and things like that, even some of the lizards that we have here will eat plant matter, but this guy is definitely a carnivore.
Awesome, that's good to know. So I actually am going to turn the camera around. I have a, well, if I can, again, remember how to do it. So I actually have a fun fact about legless lizards, and now I unfortunately can't think of the actual name of the movie, but one of the first Indiana Jones movies,
Right.
Which
Raiders
one?
of the Lost
Raiders
Ark.
of the Lost Ark. Okay, so you know Indiana Jones goes down into this structure and there's tons of snakes, and he's like, snakes, why is it always snakes? If you look closely, a lot of what you see aren't actually snakes. A lot of what you'll see is actually legless lizards, because the production company couldn't get enough snakes to fill in the space, so they needed a whole lot more reptiles. So they were able to order more snakes, but then ran out of snakes to get. So they use legless lizards. So parents, you can go back and watch that film now and look for those things that Doug mentioned, how it has eyelids, it has ears, it has that lateral fold right there along the body, so you'll be able to actually tell the difference between the snakes and the legless lizards in that film. So that blew my mind when I found that out, so wanted to share that fun fact. What is this guy's name?
What is this guy? This guy's name is Lieutenant Dan. Because he ain't got no legs.
He ain't got no legs. So parents, hopefully you understand that reference as well.
So that was kind of a pet name that we gave him here.
I love that. All right. Well, anything else that you want to share, Doug? Any other questions, Facebook? Please send those in. But
yeah, if we have any more questions, I'd be glad to answer them. But we've got a lot of different types of animals, and definitely for as long as this thing goes on, we'll be coming out and we'll be showing you different types of animals, and we'll try and go through the whole gauntlet of everything: reef fish and reptiles, amphibians, all of that good stuff. So we'll be showing you a lot of different animals.
Perfect.
But if you're going to be at home and it's kind of a stay-at-home thing, jump on the internet and learn about these animals, learn about this amazing planet that we live on, because I guarantee there's nothing boring about it, and it will never let you down, and there's always something to learn.
Absolutely. I agree. Always something to learn. So thank you so much for joining us. You can keep asking questions and we will answer those as we get them. So please send us more questions. Also, the reason we brought out a snake today is because somebody requested wanting to see a snake today. So if there are specific animals that you would like us to feature and talk about, please let us know. Somebody asked, so they can live together, snakes and lizards.
Snakes and lizards? Some snakes and lizards. It's going to depend on the type. These don't live together here at the museum. They live individually.
Right, but so at least in the film, they were able to be with each other at
Exactly.
least
For
for
a
a
short term,
little
right,
while.
for a short
But
term.
yeah, they wouldn't normally be housed or live together.
Exactly.
And also in that, you see a bunch of different snake species as well in the film. And so normally those species wouldn't necessarily live together, but for TV Hollywood magic, it worked out pretty well. All right, so that's pretty much it for today. At 2 o'clock, we can talk about sharks next time. That would be a perfect idea. So we'll do that next time. 2 o'clock today, join us. We have a recorded video that's going to go live at 2 o'clock with a really fun activity that you can do at home with stuff you already have laying around your kitchen and in your art supplies. So definitely join us again at 2 o'clock today. Till then, be safe, stay healthy, and we will see you next time. Bye.